with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
liberty,
justice for all. All right, I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
Albeit,
And a
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. We can see you, Danny. You in? All right, 5-4. First up on the meeting agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here that has something that they would like to bring to the select board's attention that will not be covered on this agenda? Kathy?
I have a statement to read, if I may.
Sure.
This is one of my last meetings as a select board member. I wish to thank those who voted for me and those who did not, and say that I hope I lived up to your expectations as a board member. I feel I brought a moderate female perspective to decision-making. I'm not a liberal or a conservative, and I've been aided by the thoughts of many of you as I made decisions. It was hard to get started as a new board member, and I wanted to share what I've learned in the past 3 years. In order for this type of town government to work, it requires citizen involvement, not just when one wants to have something done for them or when one wishes to complain, but the type of involvement that requires time and focus on improving things for the entire community, not just our own best interests. If we're all doing our job, we lay partisan politics aside and are guided by the higher principles regarding what is best for the whole of the community. I hope that in the future there is some type of formal orientation for new select board members, as I did not experience one and I did not feel very efficient in the beginning. We furthermore depend upon a functioning committee structure. I dread to think where we would be without a budget committee or a planning board or a road committee or any number of committees that oversee the well-being of our community and its departments. Our job is to honor their recommendations and recognize their expertise. Our job is not to nitpick. Our job is to steer the ship so that it stays out of the rocky shoals and rough waters. And that means we need to be able to look down the road and plan for the future. That's the value of having an updated comprehensive plan that encourages us to keep looking at that. So as I step away from being in meetings every 2 weeks, I will continue to work in committees that look to the future of Belgrade. To simply say, it's the way we've always done it is not good enough. We must always be ready to evaluate how things are working. If a policy is worn out or circumstances have changed, then we must be willing to change as well. Repairs to systems before they break is the most important thing we can do to balance the budget. In closing, during my time on the board, I tried to help the board function efficiently and well. I think a periodic self-evaluation of any board is an important thing to do. Please bear in mind, there is no one that runs the select board. The chairperson is one among equals, and that's why it rotates every year. Periodically, taking the time to question how we could do things better is an important function of any board. I tried to improve government functioning by learning strengths of committees and board members and discover areas in which they might need encouragement. To my way of thinking, you hire or choose good people and get out of their way. Waiting until something goes awry is not a good way to run any business. The most important question we as board members can ask is, how do I help you do your job better? That goes for each and every volunteer committee member as well. Ultimately, I would like to see more community members, particularly women, step up to serve. This is the first time in all my years of living in Belgrade, 43 years now, that I can ever remember a time when 2 women sat on this board at the same time. A balanced board that reflects the community works better. At least half of the people in Belgrade are female, and every one of them is used to balancing a budget. the end.
Perfect.
We sure
Thank you, Kathy.
I feel like applauding.
I know. That first year on the board is the worst learning curve of them all.
It is. It's
is.
brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
For the first 5 meetings, you're like, why am I here? What was I thinking?
Yes, that is true.
No, you asked me how to get off from it, if you remember right.
Yes, I did. You were the first board, were you the first board president that I had? Yes. And that was often the discussion. Why am I here? And how do I get off? That's
Don't take advice from him. He's still here.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
How can we miss him if he won't go away?
all right. Is there anyone else that has anything for public comment? Bruce?
Yeah, I was wondering if we could look into RSU 18 for the electric. They went with hydro. I'm assuming they went with Benton Hydro, but I'm not sure. And I just think maybe we ought to look into that one also, considering our lakes flow through the hydros that Benton Hydro own on the Messalonskee stream going into the Kennebec. So I think that'd be kind of more of a beneficial, goes to the substation that we use here in town. I just think that maybe I ought to look at that, avenue also, as well as the solar and stuff.
I'm definitely researching that, Bruce.
Perfect.
All right, does anyone else have anything? All right, seeing none, we'll move right on to old business. And the first item on that is the approval of the February 16, 2021 Select Board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion.
so
Oh,
moved.
yeah.
Nope, moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is open for discussion. Did anyone see anything that they feel needs correction?
No, I did not.
I did not as well. All right, seeing no discussion. Kathy, what's your pleasure?
Yes, ma'am.
Ernie,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
and Dan. All right, 5-4-0 against. Next up, we have the discussion and consideration of a Center for All Seasons water filtration system. I will take a motion to open that item.
So be it.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All right, this item is open for discussion. Is there anyone that needs a preview? We've touched on this a couple of times, so succinctly, we had some water tests that were a little bit wonky. And Bruce has been working with the town manager, trying to come up with a solution. And ta-da-da-da, Bruce, the floor is yours.
So basically, with the uranium, we got a little higher than above state level. And so being a public building, we got two choices. We either got to have drinking water sources at each drinking water area. So you'd have to have one by the bathrooms, one by the kitchen, which there's no really at-point source you could do in that area that would work. A kitchen you could, but so you either got to do a complete system, which unfortunately the size, as many bathrooms we have, so on and so forth, no way to separate all the water lines. We have to go over almost like a commercial size treatment system. Now, this treatment system is for a variety of different items. It can be used for arsenic and other heavy metals, as in lead and other stuff. It does require a backwash. One of the filters requires a backwash, and that's why we have a pump up station that will go beside the treatment system that will pump up into the sewer, which has to go up over in the mezzanine. Basically, I mean, we can go over complete system, or we can just purchase water coolers and do the big bottled water do one where the water cool, the water fountains are now, shut them off completely. And do one in the kitchen and maybe one in the social room. That's totally up to the board, you guys as a board and the Parks and Rec. I just, I offer what I was asked. I had it analyzed, with my designer, and this is what we came up with.
So, yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Bruce, isn't there more to this? So this is, if you go with the whole system, I know we had this conversation. Costs quite a little bit of money every year to keep this maintained.
Correct.
Do you have any
Correct.
idea what that would cost?
That would cost about $3,000 a year just for the media, just for the stuff that's in the filters.
$3,000 a year?
Yeah, and that is if the costs don't go up. That's what the cost is right now. And then the labor to do it, and that means I have to take them filters out, dump them, bag them, clean them, sanitize them, put new media back in and refill, go through it. So it's like a 4-hour project to do it, 4 to 5 hours.
The other question I have is, isn't that going to put another strain on the septic system?
It will, yes. It will not be salt. There's no salt with this or, anything like that. So that's one good thing. We're not adding salt to the system. But yes, you are going to put a more strain because you're going to be flowing more water through that leach field.
Okay, so can I interject? So as far as what our requirement is for a public facility, it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, to provide potable water. So if we were to shut off the water fountains, which we've had to do in the past when we've had other issues with the drinking water there, it seems like the drinking water there every 10 years or so, something gets a little bit wonky. Is it in the best interest and the most cost effective over the long term to look at the water coolers? And can we simply post a sign in the bathrooms that say that the water coming out of the taps is not potable? Does anyone know? Kathy?
Well, it's sort of a related question, I think, but I want to know, I would want to know, what are the possibilities that over say the next 5 years, we're going to want to expand the facility, number one. And number two, will this water system handle an expanded facility? And do you know the answer to that?
It will not handle extension. 2 reasons. One, we don't have room enough to put a big enough system for extension. And 2, it's designed for what we have existing.
Now, can I ask Bruce, the under the sink water filters that are done at the 2 Dalton properties,
Yeah.
are those this reverse osmosis, or is it a water filtration system that will filter out the arsenic?
It's
Not the arsenic, the uranium.
It's a reverse osmosis for uranium.
Okay, and does that come out someplace else in the homes? Does that go through the septic, or how does that work?
That does go through the septic.
That goes through the septic. Okay, but it's a smaller volume.
Correct.
And that wouldn't work at the Center for All Seasons because we have
Yeah.
more than one location and you wouldn't be able to have that like at the water fountains.
Correct.
Okay. Linda, do you want to pop in here?
I was wondering what the concentrations were that were found.
Does anyone have the,
I say, Anthony, do you have a copy of that water test present?
I
can go
don't
to
have,
my
I do not have it with me. If memory serves me correctly, Bruce, see if these numbers ring true to you. I want to say that it was 0.3, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe 0.37 at the Dalton properties, and it was 0.66 at the Center for All Seasons.
Is that parts per million?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this second. He's got it right here. Yeah, so So it was 66.6 and they did it with the measurement of UG/L. So
That's parts per billion,
That's
Yeah.
part, yeah.
micrograms per liter.
Let me print that real quick.
So what are your thoughts, Linda, on doing a whole system or water coolers? Does it make sense for the volume of water that the Center for All Seasons uses in a normal year? I won't pretend that 2020 was normal or that 2021 will be, but in a normal year, do you think that water cooler type would work? It seems like we've had them in the past. I can kind of picture the jugs being stored under the sink in the
The water
kitchen.
cooler approach is a lot less expensive. I mean, incredibly less expensive. The 66 parts per billion level is not extremely high. It falls in that intermediate range according to the drinking water program. You certainly don't have to worry about showers and kids playing in the bathtub and drinking water accidentally. Basically, you've got the water coolers in the kitchen. Now, I don't quite understand, and I'm sorry I didn't realize that this issue had been discussed previously. Don't understand why an RO system can't go in the kitchen.
you could do one in the kitchen, yes. You could put an RO at one of the sinks in the kitchen, not a problem. That's 500, that's $500 installed. Those are.
And that, I mean, it seems like an RO system in the kitchen and bottled water where the fountains are would be a very economical way to approach it.
That's what I was thinking.
Treatment options our treatment systems are improving all the time. If we do expand the building, I don't know if it's a square footage issue that might kick it into a different category, but I don't recall there being any discussion of adding bathrooms or increasing the number of sinks in the kitchen. Thought it was mostly going to be for storage. But there's also the issue of the furnace and the sprinkler system that need to be dealt with at some point. And it seems like those are higher priority items. And this should be, I mean, we could track levels over the next year or so and see how well the RO system works in the center and look at it again. Need be. There's just a gut feeling on it, but
Right. Bruce, what is the ongoing maintenance for the under the sink RO system? Like how often, is it a filter system or is it a media system, like a smaller version of the big one? Or is it like a filter system and they have to be changed every so many months?
It's a filter system and, on normal usage, it's a once a year change.
Once a year?
Right. Where we're kind of a municipality, I'm recommend that we test do a test every 6 months on that drinking water.
And we do normally do a test twice a year on that drinking water anyway at the Center for All Seasons, right?
I believe so, yes.
uranium is not typically measured in routine drinking water tests, though. You have to specifically ask for it.
I'm not sure why it's coming up. It's nothing that's being checked on our test. It's coming up in the safe drinking water test. I don't know why. And it all is in the Belgrade Lake, anyone that does a water test for the Belgrade Lakes area is getting that uranium test if they go through Northeast Labs. And I don't understand why it's there, not elsewhere. But I do know there's a large concentration of uranium in the lakes.
All right.
Very large.
In that area, yeah. Yeah.
So Linda, what you're saying is, well, if I read you correctly, your recommendation is to potentially put an RO system in the kitchen, use bottled water or the big tank for drinking water. And just continue to test the water over the next year to see if that's doing the trick for us.
That's what I would do if it were my house.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It's
All
a
right,
lot more cost effective and, you know, if we can stay ahead of it, then that would be my vote.
and then if it doesn't work, we go for something bigger.
Right. Start small.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get bigger than it is to get smaller.
Yeah.
Jack?
Yeah, just a question that came to mind. Will that be okay also for functions like the Bean Hall Supper when there are a lot of people to serve? Assuming we ever do that again, when there are a lot of people to serve in a short period of time. Maybe individual bottles of water.
Mm,
Individual
do we-
bottles of water.
If I may, for a big event like that, we could just, you know, move another bubbler, you know, water tank dispenser into the gym, if, you know, that's what we'd fill pitchers with, or but in general, I just wanted to say, I think I'm in favor of this approach too, because if we go with the full Monty here, with you know, what Bruce has estimated, you know, it's $8,000 to start, and then it's $3,000 a year to service. And there's a, you know, good possibility with a RO system in the kitchen and bottled water elsewhere, we might not even spend $3,000 this year. I mean, to attend to this issue. So seems like it's probably wise to go that route, solve the problem, monitor it, and then somewhere down the line, assuming we fix the north end of the building, which if done completely, it includes greater storage. If we needed a larger water system someday, we would have more room to install something like that if we ever needed to. But I'm kind of guessing we probably wouldn't. I don't imagine there's a lot of call for potable water in the bathrooms, but we probably, going with the system, we probably have to have a little bit of a sign there just stating that the water in the bathrooms isn't to be used as drinking water. But
A sign up their kids can understand. Don't drink me.
yeah. So I mean, that makes sense.
All right, Dan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, rather than dragging this out anymore tonight, I just make a motion that we go with the RO system in the kitchen and put it in the water cooler and try
That's what I
that.
was just gonna do. So I'll second your motion. 'Cause I was waiting for Ernie to finish, and then that was gonna be my motion. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
And Dan, what's your pleasure? Kathy,
Yes, yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
I didn't want to just assume, Dan. All right, 5-4-0 against. And then Bruce, would it be a full 6 months before we did another round of testing?
No, actually, on the filtration systems, I asked Chris if give it 1 month, and then after the 1 month, do a test on the RO systems, make sure we're not getting any bleed through, and then every 6 months thereafter.
Okay, Honey, I think your phone's going. All right, perfect. Will you let us know how it's going? Kind of just keep us abreast of it?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Not a problem.
All right, next up, we have new business. Discussion and consideration of the recommendation from the First Responders Memorial Working Group. And yes, Mac, do you want to take the lead on this one? Oh, sorry, take a motion to open that item.
Yes,
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right, now that item is open. Mac, did you want to lead this?
No, not really. Sorry, it's just, it's a very good group of people and we're all equal and a lot of great ideas well beyond mine. So I don't pretend to be in charge here.
Well, somebody better tell us.
Is there anyone here? who
Here,
is in
I'll
charge?
summarize it if you'd like. I was at the meeting. Basically, just to start, we're thinking that there's some empty wall space in the town office where potentially we could create a picture wall of all the fire people that are currently serving. Initially, that's what we would do. We spoke about, potentially black and white pictures, but that's open to, could be different, but it doesn't have to be. But and we would just publicize who's serving right now, and maybe somewhere down the line that might include members as they retire or what have you, but or formally have served. We spoke about a couple of members from Rome who are very active, who potentially might get honorable mention on this wall. Gary Foss and Dr. Pay.
Okay.
And so to start, we could do that, publicize that.
To go on camera at that point.
And then publicize it.
You
On
tap
the
a button to raise your hand.
Is everything
And
all right?
then maybe somewhere down the line, we might get some fundraising or something like that, and create some sort of a rock, a generic sort of rock memorial somewhere out in front of the town office, which supports first responders all around, maybe with a flagpole or maybe not. We haven't quite decided that, but as a first strike at this, just having pictures on the wall of the town office was what we were planning to do rather sooner rather than later.
Okay. Mac, did you have anything to add to that, or?
Just to say, I think Anthony's memo was a good memo, on what we did. And I agree with Ernie and Anthony, and so, no.
Is there a time frame that you folks have discussed with starting to put something together?
So Melanie, if I may, I think
Sure.
as the memo said, a two-pronged process. If the select board is good with honoring our current Belgrade residents who are serving as first responders, we would start immediately in trying to post those pictures on the wall with the designation for our firefighter and rescue volunteer of the year. And then after tonight's meeting, we will schedule another meeting to begin talking about the potential concept and details of as Ernie said, a more permanent memorial that would honor first responders past and present. So we haven't really ventured too far into that discussion yet. We wanted to get this first step hopefully approved, and then we'll turn our attentions to a more permanent memorial.
Well, I think this sounds like a great first step.
Thank you. It could be expanded down the line, but to get started, this is where we'll begin. Next.
Well, I don't know. So does the board think that requires a motion, or do you want us just to go forth and carry out that idea?
I think it's a go forth and conquer, but other people may feel differently.
I guess I make a motion that the board authorizes this group to begin this process of putting these pictures together and identifying a wall in conjunction with you and the rest of the staff at the town office, that works. That's a good place that people might see it.
All right, is there You okay if there's a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's any more discussion? Seeing none. Ernie, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
All right, 5-4. I think it's a fabulous idea.
So quick question about that. May we purchase those, the picture frames out of the select board's special projects account?
I don't have any problem with that.
Fine with me.
Ricky, you're shaking your head.
Here we go again, using that money that kind of for trinkets, not what it's designed for, as far as I'm concerned.
Do you have a spot where you think frames like that, and there'll be a cost to having the photographs printed? Do you have an idea of where that could come out of? Oh,
You asking me?
yeah. And then I'll go to Bruce.
No, I really don't, because I really didn't know much about this till I read it today. But I'm supporting it. I think it's a great idea. But I think that's where the thought needs to come in. Where are we going to get the money to do this?
Okay, Bruce, did you have something?
I can bring it to the association and then see if that would be something they would be interested in doing. Fire and Rescue Association.
I don't think it's where we need to go. I think the town needs to pay for it, but I just think there must be other places to get the money out of.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you let me find out what the exact costs are going to be, and I will, we'll find a place in the budget to pull that other than the special projects fund.
It may have to come out of there, but I'm just think we ought to think about this a little bit before we just take it out of that account.
Is it written exactly what I realize that this isn't on topic, but somehow we need to define, or at least I need to know, what that special projects for the select board is supposed to be for.
You ready for the answer?
Yeah.
Well, it got changed. It used to
Oh,
be emergency funds. And all of a sudden, it got changed to this special project thing. And this is what I've been arguing about every year. It needs to go back for emergency necessary stuff that needs to be bought, not just to spend it because we got it.
So I tell you what, maybe we can do some private fundraising. Someone just messaged me and with a very generous offer, and so maybe we can privately raise the funds.
Again, that's not what I'm looking for. I think the town ought to take care of this. It's a great deal. I just think we need to look to see where we're going to get the money, best place to get the money out of it. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm saying is that we have an agreement to move forward with it, but we'll put the brakes on just long enough to find out what the cost of the project would be and to brainstorm where to get the money from.
okay.
It might be noted, I might just make a note that as this gets off the ground and gets publicized throughout the town, it's quite possible that, a commemoration like this in any form will attract donations from people who want to support first responders. So, down the line, there could be some sort of a fund that might pay for something like this or anything further that we might decide to do.
All right. So the second part on this was the flag policy, which is where this essentially came out of. I did feel slightly vindicated because what's being presented tonight is, I think, what I said back in October. So the American flag, the main flag, except on the fire stations where they can each fly their firefighter flag, that has been done, and that as I jumped right ahead there. the whole item is open for discussion, so this isn't like a separate, because never mind. We didn't split it into two.
No,
So
we didn't.
anyhow, so the flag policy that's before us this evening, because we didn't have a flag policy in town, is to have just the American flag and the Maine flags on buildings, on its flag poles, at its facilities and properties, and from the flag holders it is authorized to use. The Belgrade Fire and Rescue Department may continue to fly fire service flags, red fields with a gold Maltese cross at its stations. This policy does not apply to the graves at the town of Belgrade cemeteries. So I will make a motion that we adopt that policy.
I will second it.
And is there any discussion?
Why are we combining these two together? Why wouldn't we do them two separate like ones? It's two
I-
separate, all together, two separate things.
I think only, Ricky, because the flag policy is what jump-started the memorial discussion. So I think because they were intertwined at the beginning, but for voting purposes, we can still split them out, as we do all the time.
I think we are doing it separately, aren't we? I mean, we've
Yeah.
already sort of voted on the, it's not really a memorial, it's a commemoration. We could make it a memorial, that could be part of it, for the deceased first responders, but right now that's not what we're doing, but so that's separate, and then the flag policy is something different that we should vote on adopting separately. And I think we are, I believe.
Yep. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion on it? Seeing none. Kathy, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Dan?
No,
No. Ricky?
No,
Ernie?
Yes,
3 yeses, 2 nos. All right.
can I ask a question now? Who's gonna be the flag police? To make sure the right flags are in the right places. Here we go again.
Well, we didn't have any issue, Rick, ever until there was a flag, till there were 2 flags put up that weren't part of what folks normally see. And that's what catches your eyes when something is out of the norm. So it's just like everything else in town. I assume we'll all be the flag police. If I see some wonky flag somewhere, I'm probably going to call Anthony and ask how come there's, a Martha Stewart flag hanging on a pole near the cemetery, So,
All
if
sounds
I may,
great.
if I may, I think, whoever manages the flags right now on the town flagpole at the town office, or at there's a flagpole at the park here in the village, whoever's managing those flags right now would be called to manage the flags in the future. And they really haven't changed any. It's American flag, Maine state flag. That's what we're kind of limiting it to on town property, and that's kind of what it has been. We're just sort of we're putting some limitations on these first responder flags that kind of came into question in the past, and we're commemorating first responders by what we're attempting to do with with these pictures in the town office and what have you. So that's how we solve the problem, I believe.
Okay, let's move on. Enough of that.
all right. So moving on, we have the discussion of possible changes to the planning ordinance appeals. I'm glad to see a couple of you folks here. As I think I said to Anthony, I value your expertise, those that are down in the trenches. So I'll take a motion to open this agenda item.
So moved.
Albeit,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right, so this item is now open. Anthony,
Melanie-
you want to preface it with a little bit of an overview?
Yes. So as I was telling George a little earlier, the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. And so it is with this proposal, because Initially, we were looking at a way to streamline the appeals process and reduce the town's legal cost. And our legal counsel suggested one way to do that would be to have all of our planning board appeals go directly to Superior Court. And on the surface, that seemed like a good idea and a logical idea. However, George did point out to me, and I'm very glad that he did, that creates an unintended consequence. And that unintended consequence is that we would potentially be disenfranchising appellants who would be unable to afford to hire legal counsel to represent them in Superior Court. And I'm just going to assume that that's something that the planning board doesn't have any interest in, is having a chilling effect on people, appealing decisions by the planning board. And so I came up with these three alternatives, which I thought were great ideas at the time, that you have in your memo, but I've since checked with MMA Legal, and unfortunately, none of those things would be allowed under the current state statutes, because the statutes require that an ordinance prescribe a singular path for appeals. So it's not a matter of giving someone a choice of, okay, you can either appeal to the appeals board, or you can appeal to Superior Court. The ordinance has to prescribe a path for that. It's also not a matter of allowing one type of appellant, let's say it's the applicant, have one avenue for appealing and having abutters have another avenue. So that's scotched that plan. So I think we're really back to where we started with
You don't have
this.
anything.
Well, except for there is one thing. And so in our subdivision ordinance, which is currently being rewritten, it does say that it does prescribe that all appeals of subdivision applications must go directly to Superior Court. And again, in doing that, we could have a chilling effect on abutters being able to appeal those decisions. So what I'm seeking from the select board tonight is, do you want to change that ordinance so that appeals of subdivision applications also go to the Board of Appeals? And if we do that, we're also going to have to amend the appeals board ordinance, because it has the same language in it regarding subdivision applications.
All right, George and Mike, do either one of you want to weigh in here? As I said, those of you in the trenches. George?
I would just add, the concern I had that I raised with Anthony was that appeals of planning board decisions, whether it's by the applicant, which could be a small business or a landowner, or the abutters, shouldn't, out of a matter of fairness, be limited to those folks that are in a financial position to be able to afford an expensive attorney, which is what's required if you're going to go to Superior Court. And having, as far as I'm concerned, having your appeal heard of a planning board decision by your fellow Belgrade residents on the appeals board just makes for better local government, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Mike, did you have any thoughts? Oh, I'll get you too, Richard. All right.
You directing it to me, Melanie?
Yes, yeah, go ahead, Richard. Mike, but he's not talking.
My recollection is that there is a statutory requirement in the case of subdivisions that forces the appeals to go to the Superior Court. I'd have to research that further, but at one point there was in statute that requirement. The other comment I'd make is that anytime you go directly to Superior Court, you essentially provide no means for folks in town to participate in the appeals process. That is, there's no opportunity for, like we had in the case of Brightside, for what was it, 40 or 50 people to express their views during the appeals process.
So I will definitely follow up with the MMA to see if Dick is right about subdivision appeals having to go to Superior Court. I do know in the MMA's appeals board manual, because Dick did point this out to me, that shoreland zoning cases must go to the appeals board. That's part of state statute, but I'll check with the MMA about whether or not that's true of subdivision applications as well.
Melanie, if I can,
Absolutely.
is this gonna change how fast this gets done? I mean, we're on a time frame on some of this, and is it gonna change any of the time of the person knowing one way or the other?
So I'm not sure I'm following your question, Rick.
If it goes to Superior Court, not to the Board of Appeals, is
Yeah.
it a time frame going to be different?
So I think it's fair to say it's a lengthier process going to Superior Court than it is to the appeals board. The appeals board, once it receives an application, must act on that within 45 days. Am I correct about that, Mike or Dick?
Yes.
Mike, what's your opinion on this?
Well, I agree with George and Dick, and I think that people ought to be able to be heard in town, and that's why we have these committees and state government.
Right.
And I don't think that we need to cause anybody any extra financial burdens unless it's needed. So I think maybe we leave well enough alone right now, unless something has to be changed.
We'll leave it as it is right now, correct?
Well, that's my opinion, and I think that, I trust what Mr. Bourne says quite a bit, and maybe Jay could chime in as well.
Tag Jay. Ball just got volleyed to you.
I was just going to raise my hand. No, I mean, I agree with what was said, and I got to figure out how to lower my hand. I appreciate that Anthony thought to start this discussion, because I think that my initial response is quite frankly based upon a few recent and relatively high profile and expensive cases, but that's not the norm. And I think that George raised a great point. And I think having the opportunity to vet this as a group brought us to a really good point, that we don't want to unintentionally harm our neighbors. And I think to Rick's point, it's much faster to go to the appeals board, even though it might take some time there. I mean, just look at the recent cases and how long it takes once you file it in Superior Court to get through that process. It's a long time. So I would just say tip of the hat to Anthony for bringing this up. And I think we're heading in the right direction with the way it is now.
Thank you, Jay. That answered my question. That's what I was looking for.
All right, so if I'm hearing everyone correctly, we don't need a motion because we would be leaving it as it is. It's not broken, don't fix it.
Don't act on it, nothing happens.
But that said, if state law allows us to take appeals of subdivision applications to the appeals board, is that something that the board wants to consider? Because again, currently, if you're going to appeal a subdivision application, you do go directly to Superior Court.
And is there anyone who's on the planning board or appeals board who knows why that process was there? Is it statutory or is it been practice?
And we'll
George?
keep in mind,
Oh, sorry.
I can't answer the part of your question, Melanie, of why. I just know it's been that way since the 1980s.
Yeah, so I was going to say, keep in mind that ordinance was drafted in 1988 originally, so it's been around a long time.
So as you guys are reviewing the subdivision ordinance, you're also reviewing that part of it, are you not?
Yes.
So my assumption is that you're going to review it, and when you're done with your review of the entire subdivision ordinance and updating and all that sort of thing, then you'll come back to the select board with all of that stuff in a package. Is that true?
That's correct. We would come to the select board with a draft that would include all the revisions that are being
Right.
proposed. I should add that we're being assisted in this effort by technical staff at Kennebec Valley Council of Governments.
Right. Okay.
So would KB cog have the answer to, is it a statutory requirement? Or whether there's been any change since 1988 to now, or is that something that we should have Anthony ask a question of MMA legal? And then,
My opinion is Anthony should check with the attorneys at MMA. We're working with a land use planner, and I can't speak to what he knows about the statute on that point.
okay,
Okay.
I think that's the way to go. And as I recall, sometime during the 90s, we looked at the subdivision ordinance and I think made some revisions. And I believe at that time there was an MMA article in their Townsman publication that reflected on this too, but just a question directly to them is appropriate.
okay.
Yeah, once I get that response, I'll report to the select board, planning board, and appeals board, just so everyone will know.
Perfect.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, we have a discussion and consideration of some slight changes for the interlocal agreements for Rome and Mount Vernon's residents' uses of the transfer station. We'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. I saw Ricky's hand. All those in favor? All right, that item is open. And Bruce, did you want to lead that for the transfer station recommendation and why? We can't hear you.
I see Ken's on now. Kenny would probably
There he
be
is.
the one to head it up.
All right, Ken, you want to throw down? We can't hear you
There he
either.
If I unmute. Okay, now you can hear.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I guess so. So the change we're looking to make is we currently sell bags to the residents of Mount Vernon and Rome to dispose of their trash at our transfer station. The bags, we purchase them, then we have to physically stamp them with Belgrade so we can recognize the bags and we know that they've paid to dump their trash. And what we're looking to do is change that to just stickers. They're waterproof stickers that go on the top of the bag where you seal them. They stick out like a bright orange flag. And really, that's it. It's going to save us a lot of money and time. The stickers, I believe, are at 9 cents each, whereas we're at 39 cents with the bags, and that includes all the labor. They also save a lot of time. If we start running out of bags at the town office, they call us. We have to rush and stamp bags for them. So Sydney currently uses these stickers for all of their residents because they're a pay-as-you-throw community. And Sheila, who works at the town office, kind of recommended this. So we took a look at it, and between the committee and myself, we thought this might be a really good thing for us to do.
Because it seems like the cost to the communities wouldn't change. There would be an updated thing on what's recyclable, correct?
Yes.
So now, and I just have to ask a recycling question. I know it's kind of off on the side, but I flagged it on my thing. Are we taking #1 plastics now?
Yeah, we haven't stopped taking #1 plastics.
Because I thought we weren't taking them because they were flimsy.
No, we're not taking the
No.
#1. No. Just that's the whatchamacallit, the clamshells #1s we don't take. Anything, any #1 jars, bottle type stuff, we do take.
Okay, because it's not broken out in here. So that's why I was confused, because I was like, got all excited there for a second thinking I was gonna be recycling some more stuff.
No, rule of thumb is anything with a neck, with a screw on top, number one we'll take. If it doesn't have a screw on top, typically it's gonna be a clamshell.
So is there a way to clarify that in what we pass out as new information? Because it does
is-
say milk jugs plus number 1 through number 7 plastics.
No, it's
So
very,
it doesn't break out no clamshells.
yeah, it's very specific on the sheets that we hand out to every resident at the windows. I'm not sure what you have in front of you right
So
there.
Melanie, what you have is the current interlocal agreement. So that would be the outdated agreement. And then the one with a draft watermark on it would be the new one.
Oh, hang
So-
on. Well, no,
And
it says plastics, number 1s, number 2s, and number 5.
Yes, it doesn't
Yeah,
say
it-
no clamshells, but we could add that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm just thinking. So, and that was just me, my recycling guru, that I was all excited thinking that we were now taking number 1, all the number 1s, because we had a market. So,
You need a motion on this?
yes.
I'll make that motion. We go with their recommendation.
Is there a second? I'll second it. How's that? All right, is there any more discussion? Seeing none, Dan, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Ernie, where'd you go?
Yes.
And Kathy? Seem to have lost a couple people here. There's Kathy. Yes,
Moved around.
okay, 5-4-0 against. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right, consideration of the 2021 town meeting warrant. I will take a
Yes.
motion to open this item
So be it.
in a second.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This item is open for discussion.
So Mary brought to the new town manager's attention that you guys have to formally approve this and then physically sign the warrant so that we can have Jeremy Dameron post it for us. So assuming that you guys approve this tonight, then if you are unable to or unwilling to come to the town office, I'm happy to bring it to you so that you can physically sign it. Well, unfortunately, we can't take electronic signatures on this document.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second that motion. Oh, somebody else beat me to it. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Dan, what's your pleasure?
Yes, and I'll approve the typos even.
Okay. And Ricky,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
and 5-4, moving this town order formal approval. And can everyone stop by the town office if we give, what do you think, a week's time?
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to get it signed this week so we can go ahead and get it posted. And if, just, you guys can just message me and let me know what your pleasure is, whether you'd rather come by or whether you'd like me to bring it to wherever you are. I'm happy to do that.
Is there a spot that it will be at the town office?
I will leave it with the clerks at the front desk.
Okay. So that might work. And how about if anybody can't get in there, just give Anthony a call and let him know. We'll figure out Plan B. All right, the next up is the annual review of the delegated authority of the town manager to sign the weekly payroll. I will take a motion to open that item.
So be it.
Moved and
Second.
seconded.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right. Ernie, you in favor of opening that?
Yes.
All right, 5-4-0 against.
I'll make a motion. We accept that.
I'll second it.
All right, is there any discussion on this? Seeing none. Ernie,
Yes.
Dan, yes. Kathy,
Yes.
Ricky? Wasn't sure
Yeah.
what was up with Dan. I was like, is there a lag? All right, 5-4-0 against. Keep signing away. All right, next.
So I do have a quick question about that. So I don't have to send that to you guys for your e-signatures again, right? You know,
If we're required to sign it once a year,
was to review once a year, but I'll go ahead and send it. I just want to make sure I was clear on that.
yeah, we may as well. And the reason we've looked at this in the past, if we needed to change it, but some town managers change. And I think actually we did change it because
I'm
it
looking
used to just be the town manager.
I'm looking at the old one and it's different selectmen, so
Yep.
you
it
gotta have
is.
it signed.
Yep, it does. And I think we did add a handful of years ago, we did update it to say the town manager and or designate because we've had interim town managers. So we tweaked it that way.
The other thing, when you send that out, Anthony, you want to type in the names of the selectmen? Because the
Yes,
old
sir.
one, it's just the signatures and you can't even read the signatures.
Yeah. I've noticed.
Okay. Okay.
All right, next up, we have the warrant. We'll take a motion to open that item.
Get motion.
And a second.
Yes.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anthony, would you do the pleasure?
Yes, this is warrant number 22 in the amount of $605,740.58.
I think I did that backwards. Sorry, guys. It's moved and seconded now. Is there any discussion on the warrant? I had one little pink highlight on mine and I asked Bruce the question earlier, so now I'm good.
Nope, I didn't have anything. I went through it.
All right, seeing none. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
And Ernie?
Yes.
Dan? Kathy?
Yes.
5-4-0 against. All right, next up, we have the town manager's report.
So this is the time of year when we would normally be planning for the Memorial Day ceremony. Of course, we canceled that last year, but I have spoken to our health officer. She thinks that we can safely have that outdoors with proper social distancing and with masking. Just want to make sure that you guys are good with that, if we should go ahead and start making some plans for having a Memorial Day ceremony.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
I'm good with it.
Yeah,
Many
really
many towns are even having their town meeting this year, so.
Yeah, okay, good. Well,
And I
we'll start.
think- And is someone having their town meeting at our center? Is that something I heard
At the school.
at the school?
Oh, yeah, the town of Mercer, I believe. Is that right, Rick?
Rome is.
Oh, Rome, okay.
So we're having their town meeting at our school or at theirs?
Our school.
And at Belgrade Central School.
And then just a heads up for the next meeting. Last night we had a meeting of the budget committee and they have recommended an investment policy for the trust. So we'll be bringing that to you for your consideration, and assuming that you approve of that, then we'll start preparing an RFP to put out the management of our portfolio out for bid. And then we will also bring another proposal from the recycling center committee about a new recycling program free of cost called TerraCycle. So just a heads up.
And when you first mentioned that to me, Anthony, the transfer committee, you said it had already discussed it.
They
And
have.
I don't know if I'm behind on meeting minutes. I think the last one I saw was like November.
I think I forwarded them. I think I forwarded all the ones that I've received from
Okay.
Tom, who does their minutes. So I know they're
Okay.
posted on the website.
I may have just missed it. I'll check it there.
No, I don't
They
think
just-
Tom hasn't put them out yet. I mean, he
Yeah,
Oh,
does,
okay.
he does great minutes, but sometimes he doesn't do them until just prior to the next meeting. But
and this is a program that was discussed at the last meeting, so they won't approve the minutes from that meeting until the meeting coming up on Monday.
Okay. And are there any time constraints on getting in with TerraCycle, or is it something that
Nope.
we can let them? Perfect.
And then otherwise, we were supposed to have an executive session, but we finished this in record time, and our attorney is still at a high school playoff basketball game that his daughter is playing in. So maybe he wasn't going to be done until about 8 o'clock. So if we wanted to, we could just, I'm sure he'd be happy to reschedule that for the 16th.
Was it pressing?
It wasn't an emergency situation.
Okay. I just had one point. I forgot to point out on the select person listing where we sign at the end of the warrants, my first name is spelled wrong.
Okay. We'll
It's
get that
Ernst.
correct.
There's no E in the middle of Ernst.
Okay.
You can blame my parents for that, or my grandfather, so whatever you like.
All right, well, if nobody else has anything, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So be it.
Before we do that, I just want to
Wow.
thank Anthony for getting the raise hand function working. But you want to start
I can't hear you,
announcing
Dan.
it?
Well, I was waiting for first just some breaks in the action where I didn't want to interrupt anyone as they were talking.
It'll work a lot better if everybody knows how it works.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about announcing how to raise your hand. Gotcha. Okay, well, if you'll remind me at the next meeting in case I forget, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, it's easier than trying to look for people waving and stuff.
All right, so do you want us to all raise our yellow hands from now on, Dan?
Well, if people want to ask a question, it's a lot easier because then you're not chasing.
Yeah.
What happens is it brings the person up to the top of your screen the minute it does that, so you aren't looking for them.
I saw you go to the top of the screen when you put your little yellow hand up.
And I think that's when I lost her. I was like, where did everybody go? Stay put.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on adjourning the meeting. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.